Hello, I would like to join to welcome everybody in today's live stream that we have. And today the live stream is a little bit exceptional because we don't have Miss Maria Kelly here, which is always the host and does the live stream with me. But we have the project manager of eParagon, Mr. Peter Strauss. Thank you, Peter, for organizing this meeting and bringing our special guest in the live stream today, Mr. Tom Williams, which is an author, sales trainer, and consultant in what regards helping us organizations increase deal velocity and win rates. And I have to say, Tom, that I bought both of your books. I
Well,
started
thank
reading
you.
the one, very interesting. And thank you very much that you join our live stream. Thank you to have us, to have you with us this afternoon. And I would like to start with this, Tom. Back in the day, I think I'm not that old. I'm older than Peter, but I'm not that old. Back in the day in the university, I learned about the 4 Ps, and now we came to 12 Ps. That's an increase.
Yes, it is, and it's interesting that you say that. How it kind of evolved, Alex, is kind of interesting. As I've been working with different clients, doing deal reviews and helping them to win, highly complex deals. I've been looking for kind of an acronym or a way of helping the sales rep almost develop a checklist of how they can, look at each of their deals critically and determine whether they really have got a high propensity or a chance to win that particular deal. And so the 12 Ps kind of evolved out of that. And the reason for it is if you go back and you look at the published, research that's been in sales, the win rate of forecasted deals, in other words, a deal that I tell you or Peter, it's going to close this month or this quarter, is about anywhere from 22% to 49%, depending upon which expert that you read has done the research. But by and large, it's been hovering around 40 to 41% for the last 10 to 12 years. Some have been a little better, some have been a little worse. And so what that tells me is that all the sales methodologies that we're working with in the market today, they're working to different varying degrees depending upon how they're implemented. But none of them are helping to break the barrier to help sales reps win more deals more effectively. So that's really how the 12 Ps really evolved, is to get us started, to kind of help the sales rep become more effective, and working by themselves, looking at this. They can use the checklist on their own deals, but then when they're working with a manager or if they're working in a team environment, they can use the 12 Ps to kind of brainstorm where they're strong, where they're weak, and where they might want to improve themselves.
But are the 12 Ps, Tom, are they aiming to salespeople that sell technology, salespeople that work in the new era of sales, let's say, that is through online presentations, through discovery calls? Or do you think that traditional salespeople that go and knock doors could use your methodology?
Great question. I think the 12 Ps is the most effective with a complex sale as opposed to a transactional sale. So to me, a complex sale is any time there's two or more people involved in the purchase of your product, service, or solution. And typically they've got long sales cycles, and typically they could have low monetary amounts or very, very high monetary amounts. But it's definitely with a complex sale. And most of the clients that I work with have got 9 months to 12 month sales cycles. And
Yes.
the average deal is about 100,000 US dollars or more, and many into the millions.
Yes, I agree with you that the more complex the more complex the product that you sell, but also the more complex the organizations that you are aiming to. And I find that is even a bigger challenge than the complexity of the product itself. It's the structure of the organization that you are targeting. then certainly a methodology is needed. And I feel there's a big gap there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So maybe we can say that the new era of technology enhances, let's say, or makes it more important to create a methodology to be able to sell complex solutions, and people that understand how to sell complex solutions.
Yeah, the 12 Ps really center around what I call buyer-centric selling, and it's really around. It fits nicely with our sales method, our sales methodology, but it will work with any sales methodology that's out there, because what we're doing is really asking, specific questions around each of the 12 Ps that really should be covered in any sales methodology that's buyer-centric.
Mm-hmm. But I see these 12 Ps are your own 12 Ps. You are the creator of these 12 Ps, or there was already, let's say, a literature about those 12 Ps.
No, it actually it's what we've developed. Excuse me, and it's actually around and kind of started with the fact that I was seeing a lot of different sales reps that we were working with had different sales methodologies. And what I was trying to do is to look at, what are the types of questions that should be asked to really understand, are we going to win this deal, or are we in jeopardy of losing this sales opportunity? And so the 12 Ps really emanated out of a series of questions that I started to develop to ask, sales reps to try to pick their interest and try to tweak their brain to see, were they really positioned well, or were there some blind spots in their strategy that they were ignoring, or that they weren't going in deep enough?
So, Tom, did you think of the 12 Ps before you started writing? Was that a part of the books?
No, the 12 Ps really emanated out of some of the writing that was in the books, and also some of the work that we're doing now that's yet to be published, that will be published in the near future, and also it's the 12 Ps really emanate out of the training that we do on buyer-centric selling, or the one-to-one coaching that we often do with sales leadership or with, individual sales professionals. It really was designed around how could I devise a mnemonic or some type of acronym that would be easy for salespeople to use, or as well as maybe a quick checklist, just to kind of use as a barometer, if you will, as to how the deal was progressing and whether or not they might have some blind spots. Really what I'm attempting to do, Peter and Alex, is to try to help sales representatives, regardless of where they are around the world that are in a complex sale, improve their win rate. That's really the bottom line. The win rates have not progressed high enough. That 40 to 41% on average is an abysmal number, because what it means is that we've got about 22% that stay in status quo. In other words, they don't do anything. They stay with whatever the current product or service or solution they're using with, and the rest is lost deals. And so, the idea behind this is, if I could help a sales rep improve their win rate by 5% or 10% per year, think about how much additional revenue and profit that would emanate to with a sales organization that's got 25, 50, 100, 1,000 sales representatives. It's an astronomical number. And so we don't have to tweak them in a great big way. We just have to help improve them incrementally in small amounts. 5% will give a huge difference in EBITDA to any company.
So if we go into the 12 Ps, you start with preference stability. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, preference stability is really, around that buyers love the status quo. In other words, good is good enough. What I'm using today is fine. I don't need to move ahead. And so one of the questions that I always ask the sales representatives around the P is, do you know, have you established with them that have you established with them the status quo is unsatisfactory? In other words, have you determined what is the gap between what they're currently doing today and where they want to be, And do you know the cost of an action? So have you gone and understood and helped them eliminate preference stability, where they just want to stay with where they are today?
So then you automatically arrive at the problem, right?
Yeah, and that gets us then into the problem. And the problem really is when I ask sales representatives, questions, and what I'm looking for is, what is the problem that the customer is really trying to solve? And so what I mean by that is, what's the problem? What's the root cause of the problem? In other words, why is it occurring? What's the impact of the problem, having on the organization and on them personally, if they're managing the problem? What's the desired outcome that they'd like to see? And who owns the problem? I want to verify that they're actually the problem owner, because then they probably are the one that's the budget holder, and they're the one with the greatest pain. So what we're really trying to do, and oftentimes what I find is that sales reps can't really give me really answer all 6 of those questions. What they do is tell me what the solution is. So, like, for example, when I sell sales training, I might get a VP of sales that calls and says, I want to improve our buyer-centric selling, right? That's their solution. That's not a problem. So I need to take it. It's fine. I can maybe take an order for the training, but that's not, I don't really understand why they want to do the training, right? So I have to understand what's the problem. And so I'm really delving into the problem, the root cause, the impact, the desired outcome, and verifying that they're the problem owner. And that kind of leads us into the next question, is the next P, which is priority. And the priority is have we confirmed, with the buying influence, that the problem aligns with an organizational priority? Because they don't go, and people don't solve problems unless they're problems that align to organizational priority. Those are the things that get funded. And I kind of look at problems in 3 ways. First is in the lowest level of a problem is a nuisance problem. And that's a problem that you and I, and Alex would know. We all have nuisance problems in the organization. They don't materially affect the P&L, but they're nuisance problems. We know they should be fixed, but we fix them when we get time to do so. The next level up is an important problem. And that's a problem that does affect the P&L, but we don't have the time or the resources to handle it today. So we're going to budget for it. We're going to fix that problem next year in the next budgetary cycle. And then the last problem, or the ones that gets funded and gets executive involvement, is the critical problems. These are the ones that align to, an organizational priority. So these are the ones where the executives are focused in like a laser beam. That these are the problems that we need to fix. Oftentimes these are budgeted problems, and sometimes these problems surface because someone in the organization or a sales rep, points out a problem that they didn't realize that they had, and that they should fix.
Very, very interesting. Yes.
And I always remind the sales rep that just because a problem is budgeted doesn't mean the money's going to get allocated. As conditions change in the marketplace, the environment, there's a lot of different factors that can occur within a company. That just because something is budgeted doesn't mean that it actually gets funded. So we want to know that this is a priority, and it's a priority for this year, that we're going to actually spend the money this year.
So there could be several problems, right? But how do you determine which is the priority, where you can start the project?
Well, there's 3 different types of problems that I look at. One is it a problem? In other words, is it a bona fide problem? Is it an opportunity, or is it a threat? So a problem is something that we know that we need to fix because it's materially affecting the P&L. An opportunity is something maybe that surfaces in the marketplace where we look at and say, we've got an opportunity to capitalize and improve our revenue by doing X, Y, or Z. And then the threat, is something that we look at in the marketplace. We say, as an executive team, we need to mitigate or we need to eliminate this particular threat. So those become the 3 different types of problems. And then they get stack ranked into either they're a nuisance problem, an important problem, or a critical problem to be fixed. And oftentimes when we get a problem that needs to be fixed, and we're going to budget for it down the road, that gets into the 4th P, which is a project. And what I always ask sales reps is this a company project that you're selling, your sales objective? Because if you think about it, company projects always have some type of code name. And if it has a code name, then it has executive sponsorship, has executive alignment, and it means that there's some executive that's overseeing this, and there's a timeline associated with it. So that also gives us an insight into, our strategy and our potentially affecting our win rate.
So the next step is finding the right people within the organization to do the project with.
Yeah, and the number one problem that I see in complex sales is the failure to identify all of the people, or I call them stakeholders, that are involved in this particular sales opportunity. And when I look at these, look at this, it's really around understanding. Do we know have we identified all of the people who are affected by the change, or a change in the product, service, or solution, or that would see value in the change? Have we identified all of them? And have we worked with our problem owner to determine when's the right time that each of those people should be involved in the buying process? So it's really understanding, each of those people. And oftentimes what I'll find is somebody will say to me, well, you know what, we don't have procurement, involved yet. We haven't talked to legal. We've been talking to our major stakeholder. We know we need to get to IT at some point. And so what happens then, guys, is that because you delay in identifying those people, now you get to the point where you've got someone in the organization that wants your product or service or solution. And now you've got to get these other people involved. And so what you've done is just lengthen the sales cycle, because now they need to start all over again. Why are we doing this? What's going on behind the scenes? Can we wait and do this another year, et cetera? There's no consensus. So that's another aspect of it, of why we need to identify the right people, up front. And I break down the people into, who is the executive buyer. The executive buyer is the person who can say yes when everyone else says no. It's the person who can create a budget when one doesn't exist. Then you've got the users, the people who use or supervise your product or service. And then you've got all the technical people that need to be involved: procurement, IT, engineering, operations, HR, whoever it happens to be. And have we identified all of those various people?
And I guess that brings up the very interesting point of who has the power in the organization to actually make the decision, right?
Yeah, the power really comes down into two categories.
I'm sorry, Tom. Let me interrupt you here before we go to the power, to the point of power. Through my experience in sales, right? What regards people, the challenge that I found is the most complex challenge is often the benefit of the benefit of the organization and the personal agenda of each player might contradict each other. So maybe officially he's there to help you bring your product within the organization. However, for a variety of reasons, you can sense he doesn't want, for personal reasons. So that was for me the most, let's say, complex challenge that I faced in complex organizations.
Yeah, you bring up a great point, Alex, and thanks for introducing that, because I inadvertently forgot to mention that when we talked about people. Is that one of the things around identifying the right people is, once you identify the people and you've already identified the problem, is now introduce the problem to all of the people and make sure that they achieve consensus that this is a problem that they want to solve. There's really 3 places where we need to get consensus, and this really came out of the Gartner research that was done several years ago. One is understanding that we all are in agreement with the problem that needs to be solved. The second area where we need to achieve agreement is whatever the solution requirements are. In other words, what's the best solution that we can have to give us the desired outcomes that we're looking for. And then the third area we need to get consensus is who's the vendor of choice? Who's the best supplier or vendor that can provide the solution, the ideal solution that we're looking for?
Mm.
And that's where, when we do that, we flush out, the personal agendas versus the agenda for the company, right? And so we try to get people all around, right? I might need to take one for the team because it's good for the business, or there may be a solution that we can craft if we understand the personal aspects of what each person wants in a solution. Then we can craft, hopefully, a solution that will meet all of their needs on a personal basis as well as a business basis.
Yes. I'm sorry, Peter. So the 6th point is power.
Yeah, the 6th one is power, and power really is around, do we have a buyer champion that has, 4 characteristics? And I look for, these characteristics: interest, information and action, influence and power, and incentive. And so I walk through a series of questions, around each of those areas, almost like a little mini checklist to make sure that we really do have a champion that's engaged. Champion has been called many different things in the literature. It's been called a fox. It's been called a coach. It's been called a mobilizer. It's been called a champion. I really have coined the term buyer champion to be a little more precise. And we've got a very detailed, a matrix or a checklist, if you will, of characteristics to try to quantify how we look at a champion.
Mm.
And then what that does is once we've identified, our champion, then we look at, the next P is really the product, right? And so, based on the buyer's desired outcome, do we have a viable product that will meet the desired outcomes of the client or the buyer? And so what we're really doing is making sure that we do that. And oftentimes that comes down to a good, better, best solution because the client doesn't have enough money or enough budget in order to procure the best solution. So we give them a series of options. The other aspect of this is if we're not don't have the right product, that we act in the best interest of the customer, and we recommend and say to them, we're not the best fit for you here, and here's who I'd recommend you go contact. That takes some guts to do that, but again, if we're going to be buyer centric and not focused on selling our product, but really focused on helping the buyer to achieve their desired outcomes, it's really the mentality that we need to have as sellers.
Yes.
So then when we get into presentation, which is the next P, that's really about, not only presenting our product and, service in some type of demo or trial or something like that, but it's a way of how do we differentiate ourselves and provide, what's unique to us around and how we can help them achieve their desired outcomes. And so there's really 3 ways that I when I look at like doing a demo, or talking to them about our products and our differentiation, it's really around 3 elements. One is table stakes. This is, what every vendor or our company in the industry does will give you these features and benefits. A comparable differentiator is the next level up, and a comparable differentiator to me is we do this and our competitor does this, but here's how we do it differently, better, differently or better, right? So we try to understand that we both do it, but we think we do it in a better way, and this is why. And then the unique differentiator is the ultimate differentiator, because that's really what separates us, is that unique differentiator is we are the only one in the market that can provide this. Yes. So if we have a unique, one or more unique differentiators, and it matches the desired outcome of the buyer, then we ought to be the vendor of choice. It's really that simple.
And
so
then
yes, Alex?
Then you need to have the correct process to apply all this.
Yeah, the process really is around 3 areas. When I probe process, I really want to try to understand is 3 things. One is, do we understand the buyer's buying process? And if they don't have a buyer process, do we introduce one to help them to buy? Many buyers have never purchased your product or service before. again, a lot of the technology that I'm involved with has got a 5-year, shelf life, 5 to 7 years. And so it's technology that a buyer may not buy it for another 5 to 7 years, or they may have never bought this particular technology. They may be new to their organization. They may be new to their position, so they've never bought it before, or they may be going through a merger or acquisition. And so they're unsure, how their organization buys. So we introduce a buying process, which is a series of steps of how typical buyers in their position typically would buy this product, service, or solution. And the second aspect of process is to understand the decision criteria. And this is one where we need to influence the decision criteria as much as possible. But if we don't know the decision criteria, we need to find out what the buyer is thinking about that criteria and how they're weighting each of the different criteria, because there may be 4 or 5 criteria. They don't all have, if there's 4 criteria, they may all be weighted at 25% each, or there may be some of them that are weighted more than another. And then the last aspect is we understand the approval process. And this is these last 2 areas are where I find a lot of sales reps don't understand the decision criteria, and they don't understand the approval process. The next P is the plan, and really, these are in no particular order, these 12 Ps. But one of the things that I work with is developing an outcome enablement plan. Some people call it a mutual action plan, or other terms. But this outcome enablement plan actually was a term coined by a gentleman named Kevin Dixon, who owns a company in the UK, and I have kind of borrowed the vernacular from him. But it's really a plan that's between the buyer and the selling organizations to explore jointly the feasibility and benefits of a business relationship. So if you develop that up front with your buyer champion or whoever owns the problem, you develop a series of steps that, what they need to do, what we need to do in order to make an informed, intelligent decision. And I tell people, I'll give you a template. We will modify it for your organization. And regardless of whether you do business with us, this template will be useful for you as a tool to help you make the best decision possible. I've never had anybody turn me down when I ask them to do that. Yes. And so it immediately puts you in control as a sales rep. And then the last 2 are preference and proposal. Preference really is around, have we identified the competition, and have we established that we're the vendor of choice? Obviously we never negotiate until we become the vendor of choice. The proposal is something that we work together, and what I'm really big on is developing a business case. And we have a specific template that we use and share with clients to help them to work together with the buyer, their buyer champion, to develop a business case that they can provide to senior leadership, and particularly the CFO. And the reason for that is we want the CFO or senior leadership, whoever's going to approve this deal, to say yes. So they can look at the document and say, this is well thought out. We need to make this purchase.
And can we find the template in one of the books? So that sounds like a really
the template is brand new. If any of your listeners want a copy of the template, ask them to just drop me a line via email or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to share it with them.
Excellent.
So if somebody wants to get in contact with you, Tom, where can he find you?
The best way is connect with me on LinkedIn, or they can connect with me via my email. It's a little long. I apologize for that. It's twilliams@strategicdynamicsfirm.com. So it's twilliams@strategicdynamicsfirm.com. Or you can just reach out to me via LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good because then you see any of the posts that I make or comments, and allows me to keep in contact with people rather easily.
It's twilliams@strategicdynamicsfirm.com. strategicdynamicsfirm.com.
Yeah.
So let me put it here to display that. Is that the one? Is that correct?
That's it. Perfect.
That's it.
Oh, I love how it goes around the bottom of the screen. That's really cool. You guys are high tech. I've never seen that before.
Yes, I'm also surprised with the technology.
Yeah. you guys from Spain are really high tech. I'm gonna have to remember that.
Yes, well, it's
By the way, thank you for the invitation. Many years ago, I had the pleasure of visiting both Madrid and Barcelona, and absolutely fell in love with Spain. I told my wife if there was one spot that I could move to,
it is.
and outside the United States, it would be Spain.
It is. It's a very beautiful country. I'm not Spanish myself. I'm Greek, but I found here it's a very welcoming country. It's a very beautiful country, and Barcelona, where I live, it's an amazing city. So it's, for me, the most beautiful city in Europe. So it's
beautiful and great food, great people.
It is. Yes. So I would like to thank Peter for making this live stream possible. Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you
thanks
for
a lot.
the value that you bring.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Tom, for sharing your wisdom with us.
Well, thank you for the offer. And if any of your listeners have any questions, ask them to tell me. Feel free to follow up with me.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Tom.
Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.